Please. Okay, sorry about that.
Good.
Somebody else is trying to call me. Oh, hang up. That's odd. What's going on with my phone here? Did David join? No? 16, 10.
See Nestor join, but
Yeah, I don't see. Do you know if David's going to join?
I'm not sure, but we can start. I'm recording the
Oh,
session,
I'm sorry. And you're recording all this with me horsing about with my phone. My phone is like, it's like my husband's. I'm going to turn it off because whatever's going on with that phone is driving me bananas. All right. So let's do this. Today we're going to talk about this tool here, the Integration Manager tool.
Okay.
So basically what it is it's very, very high level. It is a method used to integrate with the Kronos application. So it's its own API. It's got its own connection to the database. And you don't necessarily have to know SQL very well unless you choose to use SQL as a function of that particular WIM product. Right now, what I was working on was the HR import. The HR import has two processes. The first one is a person new import, and then the second one is the person update. So when HR hires new people in the system, those people are brought in with the first interface. And when employees have changes to their data, that's brought in with the second interface. It processes the same file, but it does different things. And in what we were doing with Hasiel's request, he had this spreadsheet of things that he wanted to have removed or blanked out, or at least not brought in for the employees. So I just kind of went through and looked at birth date and address, gender, which is funny because we have gender on the file. We never even use it in Kronos, but we kept it on the file just in case we decided to use it at some point. Rate, of course, and then contact. This, a lot of this information, again, was not just for Mexico, it was also for the US. Yeah, so, we just use one big file. In like WorkCell here, I see, he has a comment, but you all don't use WorkCell. So everyone in Mexico for that value is just a 0 because Mexico never used it. As a matter of fact, there was only one plant for US that had the WorkCell information.
Okay.
And only 2 or 3 use the crew value. So, some of these fields you won't even use. We'll just bring them in as 0 or N for not applicable or something like that. So what I did was start to just work on those changes. Each interface, so the .kni files are the interfaces. The .knx files are the actual, think of them as procedures in a program. So think of the KNI as a program. Think of the KNX files as the procedure in it. So if we look at it behind the scenes, let's just go, the interface tool that I sent, that I asked you to download, the executable, it's going to be under C, Kronos, interfaces, and then here is all the files. So if you see these .knx, these are the procedures that go inside an interface. So they're all going to be listed here, KNI files, tables. You'll see all kinds of information. So here's a table file. everything, here's another table file. So all of these are the files that would consist of one interface. So in this case, I am taking the current new person file and I just made some modifications to it. So in this case, because I'm testing in the test environment, I just disabled the old one and I just enabled the new one. And then also while I was here, I decided to make a process improvement for you all. Do you remember we were talking about HR when they have to do the balance reset for the new hires, and that's what throws Josefina off on the perfect attendance bonus processing?
Yes.
Right. So that step that they have to do is something that all HR would be doing for their new hires. Now, the reason I never did this step before was because it was a gray area for HR when it came to rehires or new hires. You know, it's up to HR to say, you know, when you come in, you're going to have a balance of 0. If they have a rehire, maybe they say, well, you know what, you had an attendance issue the last time we released you. When you come on, instead of setting you at a balance of 0, we're going to set you at a balance of 4. So we're already going to have you halfway to, you know, because we're trusting that you're not going to have any more incidences. But so there was always a gray area. So I didn't want the system to be responsible for setting a balance. So they also had to do those balance resets. But because you all are a little bit more simplified in that area, what I've done is, as the new hire comes in, we are assigning them the attendance profile here. What I did here was then also set a procedure to also give the balance reset for perfect attendance counter and just set it to 0. This way that will bypass and remove a step that HR has to do. It's always done, and Josefina should never have that issue. So it's a process improvement. So what I've done is I had, there was one new hire on the HR file for production. So I just brought that person into the test environment and created a file there. So this is that person. So if we go look at their people editor, we can see that their base wage is 0. So I made that to be 0. I didn't bring any base wage that PeopleSoft would have had inside of it. So their contact information, I just made it a bunch of 0s. There's phone numbers there, just made it a bunch of 0s. It doesn't, we can use access to remove the view of this if that's what Hasiel needs, but for now I just made it all 0s. And then in the attendance is where I wanted to show you. So they come over with their effective date based on their hire date. And then to see if my process worked, in their attendance editor, now their balance reset has been set for the counter. So now HR doesn't have to do anything, and Josefina's process will always work correctly.
Okay.
Right, so that's a good process improvement there while I was working in the program. Okay, so that's where I stopped with that one. So I just was showing you that because I was actually working on it, and I'll continue to work on it to make sure that everything, right now I just tested with a small group of people. I think I had maybe 3 on the file, but again, later on today, I'll be working with an entire full file from production, but working in the test environment since we're doing that refresh tomorrow. So I'm just going to save that. And then I want to talk about the pay code insert, where it comes to a file that HR may or may not give you, because we still have to talk to Hasiel about that, but we can do that later. I'll show you some examples. So I'm in test. I should have a file out here somewhere. Oh, maybe in the inbound folder. Kronos in. Yes, okay. So here's the file right here. So this was given to me on 3/20. And this particular file, HR wanted me to load. This is all retroactive payment for employees. So all I ask her to give me is the ID and the amount, but she put in the name, that's fine. So what I am going to do, instead of her going to each of these employees and typing in this data, right? She could very well go into the time cards and manually use a pay code to manually put it in. But if you can imagine her doing this for, I mean, how many people are we talking here? There's like a lot of people, right?
Oh, 862.
Right, 861 people or 62 people. There's a lot of room for error. There's a lot of room for making the keys incorrectly. This could have been 779.8. So we from an IT standpoint, we'd rather have a file of data that they verified and then give that data to someone in the IT group and then have them load it. So in this case, this retro file.
Yeah, but in this case, as Asael is not going to have any trouble that we see the information.
Well, that's
the amounts
the
and things like that.
Yeah, that's the question, because he's so concerned about the data and seeing base and wage. I don't know if he'll want to give this to your group.
I'm sure that he's gonna still wants to do these kind of things because they don't want to enter all the information, but also he doesn't want us to see the information. So
well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You as the manager of IT, I mean, obviously he's got to understand that you have some authority, right?
Yeah, I know. But I'm gonna use this just to bother him.
Okay.
Say, no, I'm not going to do that because I cannot see the information.
Right. Right. You can't do it because you can't see it, but you're the only one that will have access to this right now, this tool. Yeah. So you technically would be the only person doing it.
Okay.
Okay. But that's not to say that the other IT, because they need to support the application, they can still go to a time card and they could visually see that.
Yeah, I know.
Right. So I mean, he has to have. It's kind of like, I know it's a little different for him, but it's like our group, me, AB, Kim, and Suda. we had access to all the data for all the employees for all of Tower.
Top
right?
managers.
Yeah, I know.
Every piece of data, but it's the trust behind of what you know. I mean, just because you have access doesn't mean you need to access it. Doesn't mean you need to go see it. You know, whatever another employee's their health benefits or their pay, their structure or whatever. I mean, you as an IT person, we kind of know it's none of our business. And even when we're testing, we go in and we see this information, but it's nothing that we see that we say, oh, you know, we just see it and we move on, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully he can understand that. I know it's hard for some people to understand, but I've worked with it all my life, and I know AB has. But then even also with the military, I mean, I had top secret special background investigation clearance. I had a very high level clearance, but it's nothing that you go back and you say, hey, guess what we did today? You know, right. It's just things that you know. So anyway, hopefully he'll understand that.
Yeah.
All right. So
he's
we had
going to understand as his convenience.
Yes, because I tell you what, having his team manually enter 900 and some odd different types of values is going to be a hot mess. Okay, so let's talk about that. So I put a file out here. Let me change my directory. So in this tool, the first thing you have to know is which directory you're going to work in. In this case, I was working on an HR process, so I was in my HR folder. So now I have to switch to the MB folder, which is your folder. Once I'm there, now I can go and say open a file, and then I got to navigate up. And the one I'm looking for is the pay code insert, which is around here somewhere. There's so many. There it is. Pay code insert, this one. It's a very simple process because she's going to give me a file. She's going to tell me what date she wants it loaded on, she's going to tell me what pay code she wants to use. So I can use this pay code insert link for anything. I just have to make small modifications to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the source. The source of this file is going to be the Kronos in folder. Okay, so it was the Kronos in folder. Then I got to change it here. And the name of the file, I believe, was retro.csv. So I'm going to change the file name. This is my source. Okay.
That's it.
Now,
okay.
Depending on if there was a header or not, you're going to either leave a 1 or leave a 0. So let me look back at that file because I totally forgot. I couldn't remember if there was a header or not, so now I got to open it and look. Yep, there was a header. So what I want to tell it to do is to skip this right here, or it's going to give an error. It won't know what to do with that. So I'm just going to leave that open for a minute just in case I got to look at it. So I'm going to skip the first row, right? And because it's a CSV, it's a delimited, you're going to leave that as is. But this one, this is important not to forget, because sometimes there's not a header. Okay.
Okay.
It's delimited. Now we're going to go to the output. The output is going to be the Workforce Central import. This is all going to stay the same, right? This is the version that we're working on. We want to send errors to the transaction assistant. This is going to show us if there were errors, it's going to show us what they exactly are. And this stays the same. So now we're going to hit on the records table. This is where we're going to tell it what to use. So let's look at our variables. The date that we want to use. In this case, at the time that I ran this last interface, they wanted it on a specific date. So she said probably I wanted it on a day +2 or something like that. So I always use the server date. So let's just say we wanted it on today. What's today? The 26th?
Today is 26.
Right. So I'm just going to delete that because I don't want to add any more days on it. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to change it to say database server date. There. So I just want it to be for today. The amount was on field 3. Let's make sure. So if we look at our file here, 1, 2, 3, this is our amount. Yes, that's correct. Right? And the way we do that is transfer from the source and we tell it what field number, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So that's already there for you. And then here is the pay code name. Here is where it's going to change. The last time I processed this, it was this pay code, right? Most of the time she tells you, but I just happen to know what it is. The pay code to use for retro is retro $. That is the pay code that's going to be entered on the time card.
And it needs to be exact.
It needs to be exact. And if you say, well, if they say, well, just use the retro code and you just put in retro, you're going to have an issue. Okay. So the best thing is to just have them be clear about what pay code to use. And then because you have access to all that information, you're going to go and you say, you know what, let me make sure that they're spelling it right or they're giving me the right pay code. You can go down to pay codes. Oh, I'm in English. I'm in English, but I'm going to show you anyway. And if you just type in RETR with this asterisk, it's going to pull all the retro, anything with RETRO. And there we go.
Okay.
Right. So sometimes what I do, because the spelling, I want to make sure I get the spelling right, I'll just copy it.
Correct.
Yeah, I will copy it and I'll just go over here and paste it just to make sure that I'm spelling it correctly.
Good practice, actually.
Right, yeah, because sometimes I will spell stuff incorrectly. And then the most important, I do it in test first. That's always important.
I need to check with Kronos if we're going to have a test environment.
Right, that would be very important. So
I think, Alberto, if I'm correct, we are going to have, is that right? I think that's the way Kronos does. They give you test environment.
Yeah. I just gonna check it, but I'm pretty sure that we need it.
You need it, correct? Exactly. You could take full advantage of the system, because you're paying, and why not get the best out of the product?
Yeah, probably they have some sandbox environment or something like that.
Okay.
True, because whatever Josie has done, all these interfaces, you can you can go over and duplicate also,
Yeah, yeah, I know.
and change.
Yep, you can certainly just take all the interfaces and plop them where you need to, and then you can just change. There's at the high levels where you change the values where you need to use the database name, the server name, and things like that. It's just a couple of things. After that, it's not too much you'll have to change.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I did was remove a lot of data because we don't need to process it for forever. And then I don't even know if these people are even active in the system anymore. So they might fall out, but I definitely added our new guy. Because and that's not even his name, and I don't even care because we're just looking at this and this right here.
Correct.
So I saved it. So there's 3 people there. I'm just gonna save it. And I can't have it open when I'm processing it, so I'm just gonna let it close. Remember, I'm working on the network, so it's gonna be pretty slow. Let's just close that. I don't need to save that. Okay, going back over here. So now I have this and I've got to save it. So what I'm telling it, this is the actual record. These are pre-formatted for Kronos and the WIM. They give you already pre-formatted things if you want to do it. If you want to do a pay code edit, a pay code move, if you want to add pay rules, these are all the things that you can do that are already pre-defined for their fields. In our case, we're using the pay code edit. We're doing an add only. And these fields are already there for us. And all we want to do is say the effective date, the amount, and then obviously who it's going to go to, the pay code name, right? Our person number is the employee ID, and that's given to us in the file for the first field. So we want the first field. We want the third field from the file. We're going to tell it what date to use, which is the 26th today. And then we're going to tell it what pay code to use for that insert. So now that I have that, I know I'm pointing to test because GDC USTST 154 is test. So I don't have to deploy this to the server. So if we look over here in our environment here, if we go back over here to interfaces, these are all the interfaces. These are all the .kni files. They're already here in the application for the users to run, right? Okay. This particular KNX process, this procedure, it's only existing in this WIM environment. I'm not going to create a interface and put it in the application and then run it there because I don't need to. Because
it's a one-time thing. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Right. It's a one-time thing. I'm going to be modifying it on the fly anyway. So from here, connected to the database, I can just run it. So that's what I'm going to do now. This is all preset values. You will be using your login and your password for the network or however Kronos is going to set that up for you, but you will have your access point. And then I'm just going to hit run.
That's it. Runs pretty quick, actually. Yeah,
it does, but I'm
right now it's
remoted on the network, so it's going to take a minute because it's got to go to that test drive and
correct. Yeah, it's going into the network drive. Yeah. Pulling the file from there.
Yeah, but usually it runs pretty fast. Like a 900 and whatever employees will take like less than a minute. Okay, so now it says it's complete. If I wanted to view the log, it will open up here and show me the summary. So this is the log of what I just ran. 0 errors, 0 disqualified. That's good. It used the file that I wanted to use, and it processed 3 records, which is what I wanted. So that's just a log to give you an update of what it just did. But now we want to go into the system and we want to see it there because that's where the user is going to go and validate it. So I'm going to use my genies, and retro is a common pay code. So I'm just going to use this. I did it in the 26th.
Today's date, yeah.
Yeah, today's date. So I'm going to use, I'll use all active.
Yeah.
And then I think retro's up here. If not, it's in the other one. Okay, let me make sure. Retro. Right here. So here's my column with retro pay code.
Wow.
And if I filter, there they are.
Wow, wonderful.
So these are the three amounts.
And amounts are also there, actually.
And the amounts are also there. So, and if you go to the time card, that's where you're going to see it in the time card for the 26th. See that?
It's very good. Very good. Yeah.
So you see how easy it is. If they give you a file, all you have to know is where to put that file on the server, right?
Make the pay code change, yeah.
Right. And then you're going to open up your paycode insert.knx file. You're going to first go to the source, make sure the folder that you have it in and the name of the file are correct. Then you're going to see if it has a header or not, because if there's no header, then you're going to make it a 0. But if there's a header, you're going to have it a 1. You're going to have it a 1.
Okay.
Your output will always be the same here, unless you guys are on a different version. It's going to be a different number, right? And then your functions and variables is where you're going to go. There, you're going to find out what column the person number is in. They're very good at putting the person number in the first column. So that's always really good. Yeah. And then the effective date is important. You need to ask them what date in the time card do you want to see this information? If they just say in the current pay period, well, then that's any day this week. If they say it has to be on the last pay period, then it's any time last week. But if you can make them be specific on the date, that will help you, okay? If they said, like today's Wednesday, if they said, oh, it needs to be on Monday date, then that's where you come here and you say, use a calculation, today's date, subtract 2. That's how you would get Monday's date.
Okay, but you can also use a static.
You can use a static date. Yeah, I like to make it do its own math. Okay. I like to make it do its own math, but yes, you can just go in here and say, you know, static text and then put in your date. For here, wherever the amount is on that file, that's the field that you're going to use. And then again, with the pay code name, they need to be specific. They can't just say, oh, just use the retro code. Make them in an email tell you specifically which code so that you can validate the actual spelling of it and then get the correct information. And then once they give you the file, then all you got to do is run it from here. And then, you know, you'll see that data. You'll see it right here. You'll come just like I did and use the pay period close genie. I switched it to the current pay period because that's when the 26th is in. We are now in the current pay period. And then you're going to find that column of that special payment, and then you'll see that some data loaded. Now, there is only one time that they gave me a file. I loaded it, and they came right back later on that day and said, oh no, we made a mistake.
Date is wrong.
Yeah, no, not the date. The data was wrong.
Ooh.
They did some miscalculation. They said, "Oh no, is there a way that we can remove it quickly?" And I said, "Yeah, there is, no problem." And there is. There, right, as much as we can add, we can also delete the data very quickly. So here's the delete. See, I had to create it because this is what we did. So once again, you open up the KNX file for delete. Make sure that your source is where it's supposed to be. So it was Kronos _n. You're doing the same thing. And this was, yeah, that's when we actually made it. It was the retro file that we did incorrectly. Retro, right? The same file name. We're skipping the header. our output and everything. In this case, I just made it a delete.
Okay.
Once again, we go to and make sure that we're pointing in the same thing, the effective date. Here, do you see how I use the static date?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I used it here. In this case, I said the date is going to be 5/26/2020, because that now I know specifically which date I want to do it on. And the amount is not in field 2, but it was in field 3 for this file. And I know the pay code name was retro.
Exactly.
Right. So now I'm going to hit save and I'm going to delete it. So here I want to make sure the amount is here, the effective date, the person number, and the pay code name. All right, so now I'll just run it to delete it. And if we had the 900 plus people, then yes, this is a way to go. If it was 3 people, okay, let me tell you this, Alberto. If they have 10 people that they need to put a special payment in, make them do it themselves. This is for, right, this is for when it's, I would say over 40, over 40, depends, but the only time that they do these kind of mass loads, it's when it's all the plants anyway, so you don't have to worry about them asking you to do mass loads for 10 people. But just in case, they users get a little bit more complacent in it and they start asking for things. Mass loads are meant to be because it's a lot of information to be trying to data entry. We'll wait for this to get done. Okay, so it was completed. If we want to view the log, we can just click on view log and we'll go take a peek. Okay, no errors.
Good.
Retro file is what we wanted. It processed 3. So now if we go over here to our application, we see it here because when we looked at the database, that's the last thing we see. It is just, right now, it is just data. We have to hit refresh in order for it to go to the database and get the most recent information. So it's still processing. There you go. Did you see it go away?
Wow, gone.
It's gone. So, but if we look, let me go to this person here. We're going to go to the time card because I want to show you in the audit trail where it should be captured that these things were done. There you go. Do you see that?
Mm.
Anything you do or anything anyone does, not just you, but anything that any user, meaning system user, high-level user, HR user, whoever, anything that any user does will get captured in the system in the audit trail. And in this case, it didn't say that I did it. It says that import did it, meaning somebody with access to the WIM did this import. They added the pay code of retro for this, then they deleted it for this.
Good.
Okay, so is that all making sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very useful.
All the interfaces you have created for that produce a CSV file was made with this?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So for example, let's go look at that. So I'm going to close this off and say, okay. So I'll look at interfaces. So here, all of these interfaces are all of yours that create the payroll files. So these are all of them. Before, remember, it was just this one, and it was this one. It were these 2 files were the only ones, the weekly files and then the occasionals. But the ones that I broke out yesterday were all of these occasionals, and I named them to specifically what the pay code is that's being used. So it makes it a little bit more clear for you and for Josefina when she's processing.
Okay.
And it goes all the way down. So these are the 3 things you need for the annual. These are the values for the monthly. And then these are the remaining of the occasional files that she sends.
Okay.
Some of them are very simple, whereby it's going to do 2 procedures in the interface. It's going to process one file for SESI and the other for Vallejo. The majority of them are going to look like this one. Very simple, very easy. The most difficult ones are these. the valus, because it's so much processing that goes on to create the way they wanted the data, the way Josefina needs to validate the data to ensure that the calculations are being done. So we can just quickly take a peek here. So you see in step 1, you know, we got to go get the worker type for all the employees. And then we got to get the food voucher for all the employees. You know, we're doing different things in all of these processes here.
And you can use the output of one of those steps to feed the next step?
Yes, and that's what this is. These two files here are summary files that she will look at to say, you know, and just validate. So we can just go take a peek real quick. Let's see, let me go here. We're still in test, so that's okay. So here's one right here. So I'll open this one. This is an old file, so we can just quickly take a look at it. So what she does is she looks at this output and she wants to make sure that the information is being calculated. This is how she had the file on the old payroll system. So she wanted it exactly the same way. So this is what she has: the employee ID, their hire date, whether they're permanent or temporary, how many days are being used in the process, how many faltas the employee has, subtracting the number of faltas from the days being processed, how many days are they going to get payment for? What is their full payment? What is the factor that's being used to calculate? And what is their final payment? And these are all these are informational over here for me and for Josefina to look at. But this is, so what she's going to do is open these files and say, okay, let me pick that person. Let me look at this person. You know, she's cherry picking to make sure that everybody is calculating correctly. She's not looking at all of them, but she's going to cherry pick and pick like 10 people to make sure the calculations are working, right? Then.
And there is a way that you can run one of these programs in a schedule automatically?
No, you wouldn't want to do this automatically because she has certain days that she processes this on.
No, I don't mean this precisely. You can create one that
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So for example, so
all the KNIs,
So if I wanted to run, say, for example, this, if I wanted to run this on a scheduled process, see, once you select it, you hit that schedule button.
Okay.
Then it takes it into the event manager, and that's how you schedule it. So to bring up this area, which is taking a little bit of a time to populate, which is odd.
Yeah, I'm thinking on these new tools that we have with Office 365, that there is a flow that you can create and take information from any source. So because here, even when the supervisor already authorized the overtime, we need to create an Excel file with the overtime and ask plant manager to authorize and send that authorization to HR. And so we may create an integration here to extract the overtime information, left it in some place, and then these workflows, Microsoft Workflow, take the information and ask for the authorization.
And this is how you do it. So you have it here, and then you tell it if you want to schedule it weekly, daily, or however, and the specific date and time. And then you can email it to them, putting their email address right here.
Okay.
Yep. So that's how you do that. I'm just going to hit cancel. I'm going to go back over here because the file that we just looked at, which is created in step 1, step 2 uses it to insert that pay data into the time cards. So once she's good to go, once she says,
looks good.
This is all fine. These particular ones will go in and insert into the time card, just like we did. You remember we just did that? But we know that we're taking the person number 1. We know what effective date we're going to use. The amount in that file was in column 11, and we're doing the pay code of this one right here. We're doing it twice because Morales not only needs the actual pay code, but they also need the number of days processed for that employee. So we take that data from the same file, but in field 8, and this is the pay code that we're using to send that.
Okay.
So once it's in the time card, obviously, if HR has an issue or if they want to change it for whatever reason, they don't. But once it's in the time card, this step, which is step 3, is the one that actually creates the payroll file for each of your groups, Ceci and Vallejo. And these are the ones that are sent to Morales. And for Morales, they don't care about all the summary information. They're just going to see the data come over to them like this right here. So they just get employee ID, the number of days, and the amount to pay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So these are the busiest ones, or the most detailed ones, the most ones that have the most calculation in it are going to be your monthly and your annuals. The rest of these are pretty straightforward. Maybe the overtime one is got a little bit more information and more processing in it. But as long as the pay code is in the time card, these processes will run to pick up that data and create a payroll file, those CSV files.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But now, does Josephina needs to run more programs, Josie?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, only if she needs to.
Only
so,
if she needs. Okay. Okay. It's a kind
right.
of on demand. It's not like every week she's doing it because.
Right.
Okay,
right.
then.
So previously, she looked like this. She had the weekly and the occasionals. Obviously, she didn't run these because these are the annual, and then once a month she did that. Those were already broken out for her. This is the one, occasionals had 20 procedures in it.
KNX,
well,
okay.
20 procedures, but there's Ceci and Vallejo, so it had 40 really procedures in it. But this is the one that was creating 40 different files for poor Morales when it didn't need to. But because of ADP and the limitation on the number of interfaces, I had to shrink them all down.
Oh.
So I left this one as is. So if we go over here, I'm just going to log off a test and just go into production real quick. Woo. Man, I'm burning up. It's hot. Yeah, it's going to be 90 something here today.
Really?
Yeah, 92, which is okay for you, right, Alberto?
I'm not sure how much is it in Celsius, but.
Oh, well, you like hot.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is how she looks now. Without all of the 101s, of course, and only the MBs. So let me get all the MBs. So now she has the breakout of all the occasionals. So if she knows that she's not processing this pay code, and she would know because HR will communicate, we're processing a special bonus, so we need it to be this. So she will know that she has to do that interface. If she's processing something with this pay code, she knows she has to use that particular interface. See how I made it simple? So I named the actual interface and I actually put the pay code being used over here in the information area. So I made it a little simpler, but this one is the one that she's going to run every week. That's your overtime, your extra payment, your absences, your vacation, all of these things. These need to be processed all the time. So I decided to leave them in one big group. Because she's gonna run them all the time. She's not gonna know and be trying to search around who has bonus this time, who has overtime. She just needs to run all of those all the time every week. So I left that one as is. But all of these
are just on demand. On demand.
On demand when this is on demand as well, but she's only gonna use these when she actually needs to.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
So that made it a little easier. Now this tool, Alberto, it's not something that everybody gets to learn. But when you do learn this tool, it's a very powerful tool, and you can do all kinds of fun things with it. Myself and AB had to take a class on it a long time ago. I think like I want to say in 1997 was my first class.
Wow.
And then maybe in 2000 was the advanced class that I took. And since then, it's just really learning how to use the tool.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. I took in 2005, Josie.
Sorry, on 2005?
Yeah, 2005, yeah.
Yeah.
Still 15 years, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we have some free training included in the contract for Kronos Mexico, so probably.
Definitely, yeah, definitely take the WIM, the Workforce Integration Manager one, so you can at least understand it.
Very right. Because you could, you know, with a small understanding, you could do a lot of useful things and integration, because Kronos has a good useful data. You know, the one with eTime or ADP, I do not like is data is locked with their systems.
Yeah.
You do not have any more kind of control except from the front end.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little limiting. It's a little sad, but well. Okay. What questions do you have for me, Alberto?
It's very clear. I mean, we need to learn this at detail and make exercises.
Yeah. Hopefully.
But it's very clear.
Yeah. If they have within now and mid-October or whatever, if they have a file that they want to load, you'll do it. I'll have you do it, but we can walk through it together.
Correct. Even I'm also there for at least for some time. Certainly, you could ask me also. We can kind of sit together and do it. Absolutely no problem. Yeah. Do it one couple of times, you'll be comfortable.
Yeah.
But it looks as a very friendly application. But yeah.
I'm gonna look at the
this retro file that you showed us is a real thing, or is just an example that you take?
No, it was a file that we processed last year at some point.
Last year, okay.
Yeah. I went to the test environment. So this is our test environment for PeopleSoft, and Kronos. So in here at some point she gave me a file, right? And like I said, it's important to test what you're doing first. So I always put the file in the test area so that I make sure that it's doing what I wanted to do behind the scenes. So here's a retro one. Here's where we did a load of that one.
Gratitude.
See, there's different ones, and there's the assistance. There's another one, and this is not just for Mexico. It's for other plants too, where we would do different processes and on demand out. So yeah, that was an actual file that was sent way back. It was way back when, because I changed the date because I made a modification, but it was last year at some point.
Okay. I just remember a question.
Okay.
Morales was they were saying that they're gonna change their FTP server.
Okay.
But this FTP server that you are using is Tower Automotive.
Right, it's Tower. That connection is going to be with GIS. So when the files are put into GIS, there's a process. It's not Bill anymore. Bill's not here, is he?
Yeah, actually, David or Shobha is doing now. You're right. No, Bill is not anymore. He left.
Right. So in this file where these all the payroll files and HR files and GL files go, depending on which one it is, they'll go here. There's a GIS process that will sweep this folder and do the FTP to the Morales. So if it's right, if it's going to change,
who's in charge of this configuration? Shoba?
Yeah. Shoba and David.
Right.
Basically, if it's just if it is for the next 2 months, if there are any changes, copy it to me. I can talk to them also, so that you will get connected once. After that you can always put a request. Yeah, he's very good also. David is I'm trying to find what's his last name. I shall give you the last name too. 1 minute.
Not Dave Stoner, is it?
Ken Stone and David. Yeah, David Stoner only. Yeah, I was just thinking.
David Stone?
David Stoner.
Stoner?
Yeah.
Stoner. Stoner.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll do.
Okay. And Shoba.
Shoba, yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, the last time seeing my emails to him, we are supposed to get some files from Morales into JS folders to Morales inbound. This is in an year back. Yeah, it's David Stoner.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I mean, besides the WIM, I mean, this tool right here, at least for if they ask you to do a mass pay code insert, you're going to have the link already to do it. All you'll need to do is go in and change it where you need to change it. So pay code insert.
And again, Josie, when this basically Morales comes out with their HR module is ready, because now instead of from PeopleSoft, they'll be getting data from the Morales HR. Is that right?
Yes.
Because that again, that whatever the interface Josie has may needs to be tweaked for getting the file from Morales and upload.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
The hope is that they'll have that file sooner rather than later, at least the format of it.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
We could always put fake data in there and just and at least modify the program so that we know that it's working right with the fields that are getting to us based on the format.
And another point is just Alberto, because you might be talking to them regularly, with Morales, make sure they do have in their HR module effective date. So that any changes are captured properly in their HR module. It's not like snapshot thing. What we give it to ADP from Morales, it could be just, snapshot, every time they just see whatever the latest information they could dump in, because I'm looking at Brad's email on the format, very simple, very basic information. But for you, because that will be Morales would be the HR part of like PeopleSoft, you need to have effective data. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that we already have some discussion regarding the effective date and the initial date or something like that.
Yeah. There will be lots of other dates,
Yeah, there are many.
But effective date is it's a way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I know it's a lot, guys, especially for your team, Alberto. Like I said, I think you will be the only one that has the executable. So you just have to make sure that they plan and keep you informed of when they're going to be asking for these mass load, because sometimes literally they will just message me at or email me at 3 o'clock on a Friday and say, hey, can you upload this? And it's like, yeah, but because I know how to do it, because I know how to do it quickly, I can do it. But make sure that they give you, at least a couple days so that you can test it. Make sure that it's working the way you want it to work. Have them validate the testing that you're doing so that have them look in test environment. Hopefully you get one. And, they say, yep, that's exactly what I expect to happen. And then you can do it in production. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
I cannot access that information card. So.
Nice big card, that big.
Yeah.
Well, if you think of something else that you want to know or that you think you need to know, I'm going to be thinking of things that I want to pass on information to you. I'll be gathering that, and you'll be seeing emails coming from me. So don't worry about, Friday, we're not going to see her anymore, because that's not true. I'll be, I'm accessible to you guys. You have, I'll have my laptop on, I'll be online. And you have, my email will stay open all the time. So
thank you very much for that.
No problem. I gotta work on scanning some of those documents that I want you all to have. It's just knowledge, good things to know when it comes to Kronos and being the admin of it. I do have WIM books. I have my first one and my advanced one, but the book is like that thick, and there's no way to scan all that. It's just no way. I was hoping I could find something online, but there's nothing online that will give you anything. Kronos really wants you to do their training.
Yeah. I don't remember if the training is included with the service, but if not, we're gonna have to pay for some training session.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. You guys have a good lunch. Oh, your lunch is not for a couple more hours, but when you have it, have a good lunch.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye, guys.
We're gonna have another training session, or this is the last one?
This is the last one that I have scheduled, but if you think of something else, we can put one in place.
Yeah, probably Friday. Are you available on Friday?
Let me see what's going on Friday. Friday is packed full with crazy meetings until after 2 o'clock. So after 3 o'clock for you.
Okay. We're gonna try to have some questions.
Okay, I'll make it for my 2 o'clock, which will be your 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Or 2:30. I'll make it 2:30.
No, for them it's 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Right, 2:30, so it'll be 1:30 for you. Is that okay?
Yeah,
that's okay. Good. That'll be good.
Anytime that you can, it's okay for us.
Okay. All right then.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.